Okay, I'm gonna go through some notes here. Some of this is actually 2.3 that we really didn't talk about before. Talk about it now. So here we go. First notes I want to talk about, and maybe you guys already know this from previous sections that you just kind of figured out on your own. But mu, okay, it's a U. Call it mu. All right. This is the population mean. Mu, pronounced, I don't know, mu, M-U-E, mu. It's the population mean. Capital N is the population size. Okay? X bar, so this is called X bar. This is sample mean. Lowercase n is sample size. So if you get a problem and it says the mu is 10 or whatever, then you know you have a population you're dealing with, and it's giving you a population mean. If it's a capital N, it's giving you a population size. Okay? If it's X bar, it's giving you a sample mean. All right, so you know that this problem is dealing with a sample. Same thing if they give you a lowercase n. You know that it's involving a sample. Okay? The next two things we're going to talk about, and we're going to be talking about these two things for the rest of the year, is deviation. Not more a standard deviation, but what is deviation? So example 1, 2, not so much 1. Example 2 and 3 start dealing with deviation. Okay, deviation is just how far a number deviates from the mean. Okay, how far is that number away from the mean? And then standard deviation is how far on average is the group of numbers away from the mean. Okay, it's the mean deviation of the whole group. How far on average are the numbers away from the mean? So here you can look at, this is example 3. I put these numbers in the calculator, and you're going to want to do this at some point. You pause the video and do that. But you can notice here we got a list of 12 numbers. Is it 12 or 11? Okay, 12 numbers. Am I missing one? Oh, I'm missing one. I'm missing the top number of 4, aren't I? That's what's going on here. So, oh, no, there it is. 4. I feel like I'm missing one. Oh, yeah, I should have a 10 here. There we go. Okay, so that's all of the numbers. Okay, some are off the screen, but that's all the numbers. Now, if I have a mean. These numbers have a mean. And we can find that real quickly by, let's actually finish with the notes, and then we'll get to that. Okay, so standard deviation, and we'll talk about what standard deviation is. Here we go. So population variance, okay? This is the standard deviation squared. Here's the formula on how to find it. Okay, it's on page 83. If you can't read my writing, it's on page 83. The sum of the deviations squared divided by the sample size. Okay, the sum of the deviations squared divided by the sample size. Okay, that's what theta squared. They use the symbol theta. Is it theta? Yeah. And then population standard deviation is the square root of population variance. Okay, there's a formula for this, but just know that once you find the population variance, just take the square root, and you have population standard deviation. Okay. Similar, sample variance. So if you're dealing with the sample and I want to find the variance, I'm going to take the sum of the deviations squared, but this time instead of the actual sample size, I take the sample size minus 1. So how many are in my sample? Minus 1. Population size, capital, sample size. I think I misspoke back there and I called this sample size. All right? And again, then find the sample standard deviation. I'm going to take the sample variance and take the square of that. All right, so how does this look? This is example 3. I put the numbers down. So if I want to fill out the table, okay, you can do it all on the calculator. I've entered the numbers, so I'm going to quit out of here. Then I'm going to hit Stat. I'm going to go to Calculate. I'm going to do 1var stats. I want to do the 1var stats on L1. Hit Calculate. Okay. So this gave me an X bar. So my mean of my 10 numbers is 7.5. That's my mean. So it gives you all the numbers you need right here. It also stores them. So if I quit out of here, all those values are stored in in vars number 5. So if you remember, we got an X bar. If I hit enter here, you'll remember that X bar was 7.5. And sure enough, there it is, 7.5. So anytime I run 1var stats, it's going to save all those values into statistics, and they're all right here. So we had 12, this is n, that'd be the size of the sample. We had 12 numbers, so this should be 12 if I hit enter. Okay, there's 12. Go back into vars, statistics, number 5, SX. This is your standard deviation, SX. So we had it as S here, or actually S here. That's what it is right here. So the standard deviation of this list, if I hit enter, is 1.88. If you look in the book, that's what you're supposed to find for number 3. They round to 1.9. They get the square root of 39 over 11. This is example 3. So your calculator can do this. If I want to find the variance, remember that the variance is just the standard deviation squared. So there's your 3.5 is what the book rounds to for example 3. Okay? So just by doing 1var stats, you get the standard deviation, and then squaring that, you get the variance. Now, if you want to fill out the chart and do this all by hand, you can do that. So we have the chart here in L1. So if I want to fill out the chart, this column, L2, is X, and our X's are in L1, minus the mean. So after we ran 1var stats, we stored the mean. So it's in vars, number 5, it's number 2. That's the mean of that list. Hit enter, and it's going to fill in all those spots. So you see how those match up perfectly with the chart on page 85. Now I want to do this column. Again, you go up to the top, L3. When you want to do a formula, you go to the top. So in this column, all I want is L2 squared, according to the chart. Hit enter, and there we go. The first one's 12.25, next one's 2.25, and so on. So what this chart means, talk about it a little bit. This number 4, it deviates from the mean. Remember, the mean is 7.5. So number 4 deviates from the mean by a total of negative 3.5. Okay? 7, the one below it here, right, deviates but from the mean by 0.5. So it's negative 0.5. It's 0.5 less than the mean. Here we'll go to a positive one. 10, that deviates by 2.5. It's 2.5 bigger than the mean. That's all this chart is showing. And then these numbers over here are just squared. Okay? So again, to do this by hand, we need the sum of L3. An easy way to get the sum of L3 is, again, just do 1var stats on L3. So 1var stats, L3, it's going to give me all the data for L3. If I calculate, Okay, so the first one is the mean. So that's the mean of that last, that L3. The next one, sigma x. Remember, sigma x is always sum. So sigma x is the sum. That's what we're looking for if you want to do this problem by hand. We want the sum of the squares. Okay, so this whole column right here, whoops, right? This whole column is those squares. So to find the variance for this, it's the sum of the squares, which was the sum of x minus x bar squared divided by n minus 1. Well, we just got 39 divided by 11. So this would give you s squared. Okay? And then to find s, you just take the square root of s squared. So we did that all by hand. Again, it's just a simple, we can do it again here. Just calculate one of our stats on L1. And there you go. Standard deviation Sx, right here, is 1.9. If I want to find standard variance, I would square it. Okay? Hope this helps.